This is Undaunted.Life, a man's podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Let's get into it. Kyle Lucas, welcome to my house. What's up, man?
Yeah, I've been wanting to do this for a while, actually. I sure appreciate you having me.
Yeah, we're going to get into your whole story, but people that are watching on YouTube and Rumble might be wondering, okay, that is an enormous box that's on the table. And I've got one of my hats, but like whenever we talked about getting you up here and getting you here on the show and all that, we talked about you basically checking one of my boxes of something I've always wanted my entire life, and that's my very own cowboy hat. And you've got people because you're in the rodeo biz, and we're going to get to that in a second. So is this it? Is this my...
That's it, yeah. We chatted about it a little bit off camera, and this is actually, we got a mutual friend, Dale Brisby. I know he was on your show, and you're on his, and this same company got Dale a hat, and then Dale gave it to Joe Rogan when he was on Joe's show.
Right, yeah.
This is more of the summer edition. This is the straw hat, like we mentioned, but we'll get you a felt hat from him eventually.
Okay, sounds good. Well, I'm going to trade you my, branded bills. This is a dope hat. By the time you guys are listening to this, these will probably be sold out. But there's your hat.
Sweet.
So that
Thanks.
is probably the most expensive and like coolest hat that we've made because they redesigned this band. It's their X-Gen hat or whatever. And we don't have any like official relationship with branded bills. We just really like their stuff.
Yeah.
That's why we keep doing it for people. And so moisture wicking and like water beads off of it and all of that. But
yeah.
How do we do this? Do you like present it to me, or
I
like
can.
Okay? Yeah, let's do like the full-on rodeo presentation. Let's
go. Like you said, you've never had one.
No.
So we were a little bit nervous on the sizing.
Yeah. So I took one of those like measuring things and just like and I did it probably 5 times just to be like, okay, is this spot? Do I have a lump back there and all that?
Probably do.
Yeah, I probably do.
Well, let's try it on.
All right.
Worst case, it doesn't fit. We get another one.
Guys,
What you think of that, baby?
look at that. All right, now is this a particular shape before I go throwing it on?
It's your cowboy shape,
Okay.
You'll be able to fool some people if you're not a real cowboy.
And I'm not a real cowboy.
Make sure you put it on. You always got to have the bow in the back.
Bows
That's
in the
all
back.
you got to know.
I did at least know that. So here we go.
Dang.
I think that fits, my friend.
Looks pretty good.
What do you think?
You got me fooled.
Look at that. I got to look at myself in the camera. Let's go. This is the camera. Yeah, that's my camera right there. Look at there. I'm official now.
Man, American's been so good with the fit and everything.
Shout out to American. Look at that.
Yeah,
boom. All right,
they
we'll
hook
get
a
the box
guy
on
up.
shot.
That's awesome.
Well, I don't know about you. I'm keeping this on the entire.
Yeah.
You don't have to put my hat on, but I'm gonna keep this one on.
I'll get there
the entire time. But no, so we've kind of teed it up a couple of times. I'm trying to remember how did you and I get connected? Because I remember we got connected on Instagram, and then you ended up coming to Faith Bible in Edmond for a little bit. But like, did somebody put us in touch, or how did that happen?
Well, I kind of stumbled across you. So I had been living in Luther, a little town east of here.
That's close to Edmond, yeah.
Yep, exactly. And it's actually a famous town now. They had the Tulsa King movie, and they actually shot a scene right in our town at the little cafe. But anyways, I was at the gym just south of there and just going through YouTube, looking at some stuff. I think it was I believe it was a Mike Glover. I'm a big Mike Glover fan.
Yeah.
He's an interesting guy. I can listen to him for hours. He's so articulate with his words and stuff. And it was I believe it was like a 15-minute clip with you and him. You had your camo. I think I clicked on it because you had camo on and talking about like something about being a biblical Christian man.
Yeah.
So I clicked on it and then ended up listening to the whole thing. And you mentioned something about being from Edmond. So I just reached out. I found you on Instagram, reached out, and I don't even know where the first place we met was.
I think we met at church like before Sunday school.
Yeah, I might have asked you about, because we'd been going to a church here and we liked it but didn't love it. And I kind of questioned you about that and a few other things. And you invited me there, and then you invited me somewhere that night too, I think.
Yeah, you came to Fight Club.
Yeah.
So I got to tell you this, and then I got some questions about this hat because I got excited and moved on. So here's the thing. I say this all the time, Kyle, is dudes, I will invite 20 or 25 guys, maybe 15 or 20 guys for every one guy that will come and try jiu-jitsu. In our Fight Club group on Sunday nights, it's about as welcoming of a group as you can get because it's not an official class with an official, school that's got, hey, you got to sign a waiver and here's your professor and do what he says and all that. It's more casual. I've invited you that morning and you came that night. Like, and you had never done jujitsu before, but because of kind of what you've been doing your entire life and like using your body your entire life and doing some rodeo stuff, like you moved pretty well. Like whenever you and I rolled, like I think I was probably a purple belt. Yeah, I was purple belt at the time. Whenever you and I rolled, like I can tell you just knew how to like move your body a little bit, kind of like whenever you go with a guy that's wrestled a little bit. Like they've never done jujitsu, and so some of the but you can just tell. Okay, they understand base. They understand putting this here, putting this there. Like, and so you move pretty well. But yeah, like I guess what even made you want to come? Because like most people don't know how to spell jujitsu. They don't know what to wear when they get there. They're like, oh my gosh, are all these guys gonna like try and beat me up? Like I don't even know. Like why'd you show up?
I'm kind of, I don't know if I know how to spell it correctly. You give me 3 tries, I might get it. Yeah. And I didn't know what to wear either. I think I asked you, but I've always been interested. I've been a UFC guy ever since I was a kid. Me and my dad would watch UFC and loved it and followed it all, and get beat up by my brother, and I'd beat up my sister growing up, just wrestling and stuff. And she's pretty tough, probably tougher than my brother now, but no. But I've always wanted to do it, and it was a good excuse too, and once I'm done rodeo, and I'm going to do it a lot more too, it's not like something I just did a couple times with you guys. I mean, I'm still craving it to this day, and it was quite I wrestle farm animals for a living, and they don't care. So you get kind of beat up, and you get kind of hard in a sense to where, there's a difference. Like we've talked about the gym guy and the guy that's living it. There's I don't want to say the gym guys are softer, because they're not, but it's 2 different worlds. And getting to be with you guys and rolling with you guys and getting beat up, and then I was in my bed that night laying there hurting. I was hurting like worse than when I'd been roping and tying, but it was like equivalent to when Goggins won that one big race. Yeah. And he was in his shower and the water was going on him, and there's all kinds of filth and blood and stuff coming off of him. And, and I'm not saying it was that extreme by any means, but it was almost the same feeling, like I just got beat up by a bunch of grown men and felt like I was getting sharper, and that's something that I think maybe almost every man needs.
Well, that's why I encourage you guys to get in there, because almost every single man, except for those that train, they completely overestimate their ability to fight. Right. Well, some men would I would never fight, but you just think, okay, I'm tall, I'm big, I'm athletic, whatever your thing is, like for different guys, but you will just literally fall to the level of your training. Like I remember Gordon Ryan, who's the greatest Noki jiu-jitsu fighter of all time. He was asked on a podcast about, hey, have you ever been in any street fights? He's like, yeah, I've been in a bunch of street fights. He's like, well, how does that go as a jiu-jitsu guy? He's like, when you fight someone who doesn't know how to fight, like it's like messing with a child. Yeah. And so he's like, I fake a punch, I shoot a takedown. They basically just fall over the moment you touch their legs because they don't know how to base out or sprawl.
Game over.
And then you go right to mount and you elbow them until they're unconscious, or until they try to turn over and they end up giving you their back and their neck, and you choke them unconscious and you just get up and you leave. And people are like, well, surely not. Because, you look back on like the 80s karate movies and you're like, okay, all these guys, 10 guys coming at them at once, and they just do one roundhouse kick and knock all of them out. And it's just like, jiu-jitsu's just been proven over such a long time. You talk about UFCs. I mean, those first UFCs, Hoist Gracie going in there 170 pounds and just smashing these huge roided out dudes. And so it's like jiu-jitsu really is like a superpower, because you're learning how to control another human being against their will. And the reason why most men don't try it is because of that, because they don't want another man to hold them down against their will. But I try to tell these guys, I was like, look, dude, if one guy can hold you down, 2 can rape you. Yeah. And so it's like, why? I mean, I didn't make up that quote. Yeah. But it's just like, come on, like you get beat up, you get smashed, you get controlled by another human. And then your way of dealing with that is, oh, but that's never going to happen to me in real life. I'll see red and bodies will start to drop. And I'm like, come on, dude. Like, I just don't get it. And I mean,
yeah, like even give someone some boxing gloves and say, all right, do what you think that you would do on the streets. Here's a 14-year-old kid that's wrestled his whole life, did some jiu-jitsu, and he's going to throw you to the ground and dummy you instantly. That's what happened to me that second time I went, 14-year-old kid, and I was like, all right, surely I'll be able to take him. And nope, but he'd been wrestling his whole life, and just like if I had him out there trying to flank a calf, there's all kinds of techniques and maneuvers and shortcuts and all kinds of stuff.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I tell guys all the time too is, again, you evolve to the level of your training, but also those really fancy stand-up styles that are really fun to train, right? So maybe you're doing Kung Fu or Wing Chun or karate or something like that. Those can be really fun when you smack the pads or break your little boards and all that stuff. Like, that's real cute. Like, it is really, really cute. The problem is if someone like me, and again, I'm not high level. I didn't wrestle in college. Like, I'm a brown belt in jiu-jitsu, which means I'm sufficient, but I mean, there are dudes that have been black belts for 3 times as long as I've been training altogether, right? So I'm not high level, I'm not world class. But like, if you don't knock me out with that first punch, that first combo, or that first kick, or that first knee or something like that, and I close the distance, none of your techniques work now that I've grabbed you. And literally 0 of them work when you're on your back. And so if you can't keep me from putting you on your back, then that's like, and that's not me being like, oh, bravado and all that. It's like, look, I've had my butt kicked plenty, so I kind of have a pretty good idea what it takes. But someone who's like, yeah, because you can get a lucky punch, you can connect right on the button and knock me unconscious. Yeah. And so if you and I were fighting, or if I'm fighting with someone like that, I don't want the score to be even. I don't want them to have that chance. So I'm going to like change levels, and I'm going to take their legs.
You train for that too, don't you?
Yeah.
Close that distance like that.
Yeah, you have to. So, all right, so let's get back to this hat. I'm going to take it off, and I'm putting it right back on. So explain to me, because so we got a lot of different ways. So I literally have been watching guys on TikTok that are like shaping and forming hats, and they're shaping the whole thing and they're explaining it, and I don't know what any of this stuff is because I just didn't grow up with it. And we got this little symbol here on the back. So explain to me what all's going on here with this hat.
Yeah, so the top, I believe it's just called your classic cattleman.
Okay.
But there's there's a couple different cattleman styles. Like, this is the custom. Like, there was a guy shaping that last night for you, putting hands on it, whereas a lot of your store-bought are like, they get in a form and they're steamed and they're pressed down, so it's not a true custom.
And so they're steaming this and literally molding it.
They steam it
right
and
there.
mold it. Yeah, and I give them kind of a picture of my hat, and I don't even know if I sent them a picture of you, but I might have, just to see if they could tell something. Maybe you had a crooked head, is no telling. But
it's probably.
Yeah. And then I think the real cowboy kind of has it cranked down in the front, I don't know if it's for aerodynamics.
Yeah, probably for aerodynamics. And then what's this little symbol there on the back? I'll try to show
so
that
that's
on that
positive
right
times. Don't quote me on this, but it's the brand of the owners. Gonna hate me for not remembering the name, but really great family. I've heard a lot about them. My good friend Tough Cooper, sponsored by him, been with him forever and just had nothing but good things to say. And I've been the same way with them too. Ever since I got to have a partnership with them, they've just been great. Keep sending me hats. I don't know. It's kind of one of those things, you can never have too many hats.
Well, that's the thing, is I got about 40 hats like this. And so, like, because of being a baseball guy, like the New Era 5950, like that was my hat. And so, but the thing is with hats too, because I tried to ask, like, okay, so how do you even do sizing? Because, like, in a New Era 5950 fitted hat, I'm a 7.5. But if I go into a store, I can go to the little rack that's got 5 7.5s on it, and I can try all 5 of them, and they all fit different. And there's one that's just going to fit a little better.
Yeah, that makes sense, and probably the way you wear your bill too. I'm guessing, like, if I were to put this on because it's flatter, it'd fit a lot tighter than if it was wrapped around my head. But obviously, do the full measurement around your head like you did, like if you're measuring your waist or something, and seemed to. I don't know if it feels good or not, but it looks like it fit pretty good.
Well, it needs to feel like it's not going to fly off your head.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So that's part of the other thing.
Yeah, you got to be able to suck it down. And I told them guys that too. If you see in the top and the cattleman, there's little dents.
Yeah.
I made sure they put the little dents in it, because then you can suck it down to where the creases aren't hitting you in the head. So it's extra cowboy, that one.
Well, I've seen you whenever you've been doing your thing, how you'll pull it down like all the way. So I've kind of watched it. So we do need to get into that. So the funny thing about you is, you're like a real cowboy. You're like a professional cowboy, but you're also Canadian. And so it's like, and I don't know if you've heard this, but maybe by the time this is released, y'all will be our 51st state. Like, maybe, your new prime minister will end up just being the governor's side. I don't really know for sure. But I got to be honest, I did not know there were cowboys up there. I just thought it was like hockey, Mounties.
Polar bears.
Yeah, polar bears, like, and then just a bunch of liberals. And so, like, I guess describe what it was like growing up in Canada and kind of getting into this, because, you've been doing the same thing essentially your whole life.
Yeah, there's dang sure a lot of cowboys up there. I don't know what our beef production is up there, but we have a lot of beef, and there's bumper stickers. I love Alberta beef, so it's strong. But yeah, just growing up being a cowboy, my dad was a I believe he made the Canadian finals 24 times, which is like the Canadian Super Bowl, and then the World Super Bowl is the national finals for some of your viewers that might not be versed on rodeo. So that's held in Las Vegas. The national finals is, and my dad made it there 6 times. So that would have been the 80s to 90s. I believe it used to be right here in Oklahoma City back then. So I think maybe the first year or two that my dad made the Super Bowl, the NFR, was in Oklahoma City, and then it got moved to Vegas. So I was around it my whole life, grew up doing it, had a rope in my hand and a soother in my mouth. Maybe I was too old to have a soother, but I did either way have that rope in my hand at a very young age, and then turned professional in 2013. And I think it was just kind of following in my dad's footsteps. Like you said, maybe Canada's not as well known for rodeo, and I don't know if it was back then more because there were more guys competing at the national finals. And in my event specifically, there were about 3 or 4 guys making it every year. And then now I believe we've had one make the national finals in our event in the last, might have been the early 2000s was the last one. So maybe we're going to bring it back to where you guys know that there are cowboys in Canada.
Okay, well,
professional cowboys.
We'll keep paying attention. So what was your dad's event that he did?
Calf roping, tie down roping, same as me. Yep. He team roped as well. Almost made the finals in the team roping one year as well. So he was a little bit of an all-around guy. Used to steer wrestle. I'm sure you know what steer wrestling is. That seemed like something you'd be into.
Man, I'll try it. I'll give it a go. You just let me know where to go.
You got to jump off a large farm animal onto a medium-sized farm animal going 40 miles an hour and wrestle them to the ground. So that seemed like it'd be up your alley.
that would be a lot more fun compared to some of that stuff. Now, I can't remember if it was when I was on Dale's show or when he was on mine. We literally did it the same morning. We just like switched chairs or whatever. But he said there's kind of like the 2 sides of the arena. And so one side is where you got like the team roping and the steer wrestling, calf roping.
Yep.
Okay. And then on the other side is basically all the bull riding,
roughies,
that kind of thing?
Yeah.
Okay. So what'd you call them?
So the timies, because we're a timed event, you know, we nod our head. It's called the barrier. I'll get into that later maybe. But when the barrier breaks, it's a rope that goes across. There's a little flag on it. Once that breaks, they start the time. And then in the calf roping, when we throw our hands up, it stops the time. Steer wrestling, like we said, when the steer is laying flat on his side, they stop the time. So that's why they call it a timed event. Where the roughies on the other end, on the buck and shoot side, they're the rough stock event. You know, the bucking horses, the bucking bulls. So it's the timies and the roughies, and there is kind of 2 sides to it. It's not as strange as probably Dale makes it seem. Like it's not like there's 2 different groups and we hate each other. You know, it's pretty cool that way, and he makes it pretty funny. Okay,
so timies and roughies, but you know, like for your dad, like did he ever try any of the like bronc riding or any of the bull riding or all that?
Yeah.
Have you ever tried it?
So he did. I know he rode some bulls. I seen an old picture of him with some old leather chaps, and he used to ride bulls a little bit, but I don't know exactly why he stepped away from that. Like he's a pretty good sized guy in today's standard as far as the calf ropers go. Like I don't know if the cattle are getting smaller, but back then they used to be like 300 plus pounds was really common. So him being 5'11", 190 pounds, he was considered one of the little shrimps. And I say that because of the rough stock guys are known to be smaller guys. You gotta be small and agile, you know. And so your typical rough stock guy, a 5'11" guy's pretty small. And then I'm sure back then the rough stock guys were even bigger. So I don't know why he stuck with calf roping and chose that, but it seemed to be his passion, and he was really good at it.
So what about for you? So because I did talk to Dale, because you know Dale did the bull riding, and he also did what would it be, the
saddle bronc?
Yeah, saddle bronc, and then he was a bullfighter as well, and so like he was, you know, he did all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I mean, because he's the greatest bull rider of all time, according to his belt buckle. But so for you, like, have you ever like tried it? Did that ever kind of appeal to you?
Yeah, so I was really fortunate, and I think it's the coolest part about my dad and I's relationship. I was able to go with him to the rodeos when he was still professional, and it would have been 2006 was his last year, and he made the Canadian finals that year. And just because I was going to all the rodeos, I decided to start entering the steer riding. It's just kind of like they have it down here, but it's not as popular. Like in Canada, it's called boys steer riding, but there's girls that do it as well. Some girls that are really good, surprisingly. And so I believe it's 12 to 15-year-olds get to go. And you enter the pro rodeos, you get to go to all the pro rodeos, not compete as much for as much money, but you're right there on the same stage as them all. So I was able to do that and ride some steers. I rode at the Ponoka Stampede, the Calgary Stampede. Maybe you've heard of the Calgary Stampede. So I got to ride at some really cool places, and I got bucked off and stepped on a lot and broke some bones, and I decided that maybe roping was maybe more my calling and maybe a little bit more of a longevity sport.
Yeah, you don't really see guys. I mean, even looking like a guy like JB Mooney. I mean, he was tough as nails, right? You know, maybe the best in the world at different times. But then that one bull that just, and even you hear him talk about it, that one bull that ended his career. He said it's the nicest bull. Like, it's not one of those bulls that's just really, really mean. Like, he literally has that bull in one of his pastures as a pet, and he can walk right up to it and pet it and all that. But you just get bucked off at just the right angle. You fall at just the right angle and then snap. And then your doctors basically tell you, hey, the next time you fall wrong, it's going to hurt. You're going to die. And then you're like, you're looking at your wife, you're looking at your kids, and you're like, okay. And so you kind of stop before all that happens, before you had to kind of make that call. But okay. So is there any like beef between, no pun intended, between like cowboys in Canada, like rodeo guys from Canada, and then rodeo guys from America? And then the other thing that a lot of people don't really realize, like Brazilians, especially like bull riders, like they've got a ton of people that compete as well. So is there like a where you're from kind of a thing, or is it really not that big a deal?
I don't know. I think there is, in a sense. I think, as you know, and like looking at the movies and stuff, Canadians are pretty nice. Like, I notice it more so when I go up to Canada. I was raised up there and used to everyone nice and helping each other. Not that they don't down here, but it's a little bit more cliquey, I guess. And it's that way for a reason. It's professionals down here. Like guys that are rodeoing out of Texas and going around the world, they're professionals. They're doing it for a living. They're doing it to feed their families. Whereas I'd say the Canadian guys that are only going to Canada, they might be making a good living at it, but they're just going out on the weekends. They're back Sunday night. They get to work their regular job or whatever they do, farm ranch, until Friday they go to the rodeo, and then they're back again. Whereas, like, we're getting ready to leave here, and I probably won't be, once I leave the end of May, I probably won't be back home until end of September. But then that's straight into practice for the finals, the Canadian and the national finals, which are October, November, December. So really there's no time off being a professional. So I don't think there's a big beef across the way, like I said, because the Canadians are so nice. It seems, I'm sure it's like more so person to person than country or even event, But I know like they like to make that look like it too on JB's documentary that he did. Yep. They were kind of beefing with the Brazilians and stuff. But I know once you get back behind the buck and shoots, it's dang sure not like that. It's such a close knit group of guys.
Yeah, I mean, I can imagine it being that way. Like, I'm curious for you though. Like, okay, it's one thing to like follow in Dad's footsteps and kind of do what Dad did. It's another thing to kind of emulate your dad as you grow up and you're doing certain things. But at some point, like, you're either good enough to be pro or you're not, and you either want to go pro and pursue that as a career or you don't. And so, like, for you clearly were good enough to go pro, but then, like, what for you made the decision to be like, okay, I'm going to pursue this like as a career. I'm going to treat it not just as like a hobby or just like, because if you miss or something on the ranch as you're trying to like rope a calf or something like that, like you can kind of get it back and do all those different things. Like, this is just a different deal. Like, it's timed. It's like it's high pressure. So I guess when did you realize, I've got some skill here and I want to pursue it?
So I keep talking about my dad, but it's such an important part. He has a fencing company in Canada, and right in between my transition of going to the amateur rodeos and professional rodeos, I was doing some work for him. He'll probably laugh if he heard this because he'll say he didn't work that much for me. But I got to a point where I was like, Dad, I want to be like this guy. I want to go make the NFR, make all kinds of money. And he said, well, that's perfectly fine. But you have to take this serious. You have to treat it like a job. You can't just go, out on the weekends like we were talking about and just go, I don't want to say not enjoy it, because you have to enjoy it to be able to do it. And I do enjoy it, and it's my passion, but you have to take it to a level to where they call it a professional. You got to eat, sleep, and breathe it.
And so I guess, because I don't really understand this world, like, because I always liken things back to baseball, because that's what I've done between baseball and jiu-jitsu, that's what I've spent most of my time in my life doing. So I kind of understand the differences and the gaps. I kind of explained earlier with jiu-jitsu, you can be a black belt, but the gap between a black belt and like a world-class, world champion black belt, like it's enormous. The same thing in baseball. The best guy on your high school baseball team might get a chance to play D1 in college. And the best guy on that D1 team might get a chance to get drafted or play pro ball. But then there's levels to that. There's A ball, there's rookie ball, there's A ball, there's high A ball, there's double A, there's triple A, and then there's the show. Then there's the major leagues. And so when you see a guy like a Mike Trout or a Bryce Harper or a Manny Machado or a Nolan Arenado, like these guys that once they got up, they just stayed there and they were pros and been pros for over a decade. It's just like, it's shocking how good you have to be to maintain that spot. So in your world in calf rope, and like, okay, what is the gap between, okay, here's a guy that would be, a solid hand on a ranch versus no, this guy has a chance to make a good living doing this.
So it's cool you say that because it made me think of I think it was in 2016, they tried to make a transition to make rodeo more professional. Like, there's NBA, MLB. We had I believe it was the ERA was what they tried to go with. I don't even remember what it was, Elite Rodeo Association, something like that. And so it was all the professional, the big dogs, the 1% guys. They kind of got together and tried to make it more professional to where, like, still to this day, and I don't know why it's like this, but like we don't have any salaries or anything, and we can go, like we've got Guyman tomorrow, there's 160 ropers, and there's 160 guys that can rope good or else they wouldn't enter, but there's only going to be, at the most 10 elite 1% guys that are actually there. So I think it's, in a roundabout way to answer your question, that's the difference in our sport is just you can be anyone and buy your card and go, but it dang sure takes that discipline, like you said, to where every guy, I believe, like you said, I'm sure it's way easier to be a professional calf roper and make the finals, but to be the Trevor Brazils, Tough Coopers, all those guys, it's dang sure tougher. But I don't know. It's something I'm still trying to navigate through, and I'm able to get around those guys a bunch too, to where I can see what it takes, and we're dang sure gonna give them some heck this year.
Well, and that's okay. So I want to talk about kind of where you sit. I even want to drill down a little bit more on, okay, so you mentioned a couple of guys that are kind of like the tippy top type guys. So I can watch a guy like a Shohei Ohtani, right? So let's just take him as a hitter. The fact that he can pitch as a top 10 pitcher and be the best hitter in baseball all at the same time just doesn't even make any sense. Same, like take a Bryce Harper, take a Mike Trout, take these guys that are like top of the heap. I can watch them and know exactly what makes them, because again, even now that you're a major leaguer, right? So are you just a bench guy? Okay. Are you a utility guy that gets to play a few games a week? Are you a full-time starter? Are you an all-star? Okay. Are you an MVP caliber person where you're going to win multiple MVPs over your career? And I can watch them in their approach to the plate and know pretty much why they're successful more than some of the other guys. It's how they approach the pitcher. It's how they guess certain pitches. It's, hey, they weren't trying to put this ball in play. They were literally trying to spoil this ball so that they could get another pitch that they could drive. It's launch angle. It's, it's all the things, right? But let's take a guy that's like top 20, right? Because you talked about, 160 guys could enter. So a top 20 guy that's kind of like on the outskirts of top 20 versus a guy that's in that top 3. Like what are really going to be the differences? Does it come down to genetics, like how tall you are? Does it come down to how big, how strong you are? Is it all speed based? Is it just like razor sharp technique? What is it?
I think the number one thing that jumped out to me when you said that would be consistency, because there's guys all shape, sizes, colors, all kinds of stuff, but the guys that are all-stars, they're consistent, and there's one of every size. You got little Shane Hanchey's 145, 50 pounds, and then you got Shad Mayfield, who's probably over 200 pounds. So one end of the spectrum to the other, I think the thing that they share and that makes them so great is dang sure the consistency.
Hey guys, real quick. A consistent question that I am asked is, Kyle, what is your diet? People want to know if I'm tracking macros or if I'm doing keto or something like that, but I track one thing. I try to get 1 gram of high quality protein for every pound of body weight. And so for me, I eat red meat every single day. Pretty much for lunch, I eat a pound of red meat every single day to get over 100 grams of high quality protein. And guys, I want you to be able to get the same thing for you and your diet. That's why I want you to use the official beef delivery partner of Undaunted.Life, and that's Primal Beef. Primal Beef is a cattle operation owned and operated by Sean Glass. He's a retired Navy SEAL that partnered with Jocko Willink, yes, that Jocko Willink, to launch Primal Beef. So what makes Primal Beef different from the other beef delivery companies? It's a combo of the following. It's all American Black Angus cattle. The beef comes from one farm, and that's in Virginia's Shenandoah Valley. The beef is all natural, no hormones ever, no antibiotics ever, no mRNA ever. After slaughter, the entire carcass is dry aged and then hand cut by artisan butchers and then flash frozen to ensure that it maintains tenderness, marbling, and flavor. And here's another cool thing. For every box sold, Primal Beef donates meat directly to a member of America's Special Operations Forces through the C4 Foundation. So you can take pride in knowing that your purchase will help put literal food on the table for America's finest warriors. Are you salivating yet? If not, it's probably because you're a vegan. Stave off veganism and try Primal Beef out today by going to www.primalbeef.com. That's primalbeef.com. Use the promo code Kyle to get $25 off of your first order. Again, that's primalbeef.com, promo code Kyle to get $25 off your first order.
Okay, so let's talk about you then. So everyone's got their thing. So again, I keep using the baseball example. There are guys that are they're not great contact hitters, but they're great power hitters. So if they connect, it's going to go a mile. Then you got guys that don't really have a whole lot of power. So they focus more on getting good contact, putting the ball where the defenders aren't, like that type of thing. Like for you, what would you say are like, this is why I'm good, like here are the things that I'm really good at in terms of the event that I do, versus like, okay, here's maybe a gap, like, or here's something that I identify that I really need to work on as I continue to progress in the sport?
Yeah, I'm not one to brag on myself.
Let's brag. No, dude. You're not bragging. I asked you a question and you're just answering it. All
well,
right, so
the people that have trying to help me get like sponsorships and stuff, they've kind of prodded me and said, you got to be able to brag on yourself a little more. I thought you were going to ask about like what's held me back in the past. So I was going to say, I don't even know that guy anymore. I'm going to say it's all in front of me. But I think I'm pretty long, and I think that helps. I think that helps a lot of stuff.
How tall are you?
6'2".
Okay, 6'2", but real long.
Yeah, really
arms,
long,
legs.
orangutan arms, long. And I think that helps a bunch. You see that with flanking cattle, like, putting them on their side, because you got that reach and you've got the leverage, which is huge too. You can see a little short guy that's buff and strong and could probably lift a pickup truck, and they have trouble flanking because of the leverage. That and the roping, I think. So like my roping and my catch has always been on point pretty good. And as soon as a guy gets to bragging on one thing, it seems like you get weak there, and then you go miss one or something silly.
Yeah. Well, how often does that happen, like for pros? Because like we were talking whenever we were eating before this, like when you watch an event like that, a lot of these guys just don't miss, and you lose kind of how crazy it is. Like I remember when I watched Mike Metzger. He was the first guy, like I think in competition or maybe ever, to do a backflip on a motorcycle. And, they're showing this on television. It's crazy. It's insane. But then they had 2 back-to-back ramps. And so he did a backflip off of one ramp and then a backflip off the next ramp, right? It had never been done before. Now, if you're a top 100 motocross, freestyle guy, and if you can't do a backflip, you just won't be a pro. Like it's just so old. But I just remember, like, I had never even ridden a motorcycle when I watched Mike Metzger do this. And I was like, he just made it look super easy. But like now I'm just at this point because of how hard jiu-jitsu is, because of how hard, lifting weights are, because of how hard baseball is. I just assume stuff's hard. Like if someone does something, like I'm assuming I can pick up the most rudimentary way that it's done. Like you talked, like if you, since I can throw, you could probably, 5-6 minutes get me to where I can like, throw the rope in the generalized direction. And catch a chair or like a small, child or a big person maybe.
As long as he's not moving.
Yeah. But then you put me on something that's moving like a horse and you make that animal move, then like all bets are off. But like kind of what is the technique that kind of sets it apart that makes it so hard to do in real life?
It's probably just like we'll use wrestling for example. When I went to jiu-jitsu with you, That second time that kid come out, and he was, I don't know what he was. You maybe know the kid. He was 14 to probably not over 16 and small. He made me look stout, so he was pretty small. And I was like, yep, I'm about to get my first tap, or something. And then he just dummies me. So I think what maybe separates that is that kid's probably done it his whole life. He got put in a young
Won't say his
age.
first name because he's a minor, but he's Bullard, and he comes from a long line of wrestlers.
There we go.
And this was a kid. I think at the time he would have been a freshman in high school or something like that. And he's nasty. He's got really good technique, and he's wrestling strong. Like, you wouldn't look at him and be like, "Hey, that kid's strong," but it's like he's been squeezing things and controlling bodies since he was a baby. You know what I mean?
Keep talking about him. Keep talking him up. Make me feel better.
I'm going, hey, it's because you looked at him, you're like, I'm going to smash this kid. And then, there's a guy in my gym, he's 17 years old. I've never even scored on him. Like, he's a pro. Like, he's going all over the world and doing jiu-jitsu. His name's Jet Thompson, and so no relation. But the kid's he's just on another level. But go ahead.
Yeah, I think that's it. That was just to my point. You got to grow up doing it. You got to grow up with a rope in your hand, and you got to grow up, if you're a rough stock guy, you got to grow up riding calves, riding steers. And there's the odd people that come into the game later and stuff, and they're somewhat of a freak, and just also you got to be driven, you got to have the right direction, and that's a huge part. You can go into the gym and lift all kinds of stuff, but if you're doing things wrong, you're not going to get to a certain professionalism. Yeah,
and so now we need to get to, like, okay, paint us a word picture, Kyle. So you're at an event. So, you're about to go up to, you said Guyman tomorrow?
Tomorrow,
That's whenever you compete, is tomorrow. Okay, so what is it like? So you enter in, how many people are going to be competing? And then I want you to, like, take us through, like, an actual, like, you're on your horse, like, you're ready to go, like, give us the behind the scenes, like, you end up getting to where you need to be set up to do it, and then just take us through, like, the whole thing, because if you've done it, if you've watched it on television or been to a rodeo, you don't see the behind the scenes stuff. So give us all that.
You just kind of see, like, you made me think of a golfer when you said that. All you see is the golfer stand up there and hit the ball, but there's a sequence to it, just exactly like in rodeo. There's a you grow up doing it, what works, what doesn't work, and it's weird. Rodeo, especially calf roping, they say calf roping is the hardest event because there's just so many variables, and I believe that to be true. I'm a little bit biased, but calf roping is almost like trying to pick a lock, and the code is always changing. Like, sometimes you get it right, sometimes the code even, and it doesn't open the lock. And you just have to keep going back and trying to figure it out and that's where the consistency comes into play. Like, you just have to control all you can control, just like the shot sequence in a putter per se. So we've got our stuff that we do, we usually get to the rodeo. I try to get there about an hour and a half early, maybe 2 hours. And that's on purpose too, because sometimes going across different time zones, it's been a long time, but I forgot about losing an hour one time, and I showed up and the rodeo was starting, and I thought I was going to be an hour early, so that kind of saved me there. Yeah. So I always try to get there 2 hours before. We draw the cattle, so tomorrow there'll be what they call half enough cattle, so 120 ropers, I think, so there'll be 60 head of cattle, and so they'll draw those 60 head of cattle to each cowboy an hour and a half before. So get there 2 hours before, get your horse situated, get your horse saddled, go check the draw, see which bovine you drew, and then kind of make a plan on there. Sometimes the cattle have been other places, so there's kind of a track record. And we've even got an app on our phone. We can look up, this guy ran this calf at this place. And but I believe tomorrow the cattle have been to the college rodeo. They just had a college rodeo in Guyman there last weekend, I guess. So it's going to be the same cattle. So I might call my college buddy that I knew was at the rodeo and say, hey, do you have a list on these calves? So that's another 1% thing that you got to do in this sport. Just as much as me, if you do 1% things, you got a 10% better chance of winning, which is huge in our game, especially when you get to that level. So usually check the draw, try to do some research, start stretching. I just kind of stretch all the time. I'm getting old now. I'm 30. So I'm just kind of always stretching and get warmed up really good, get my horse warmed up really good, just for today's sake, I've got a younger horse right now that's been coming along really good. I've been in California at Clovis the last week, so she's been having some time off. So got to get her legged up and warmed up really good, kind of knock the edge off of her a little bit so where she can zone in and focus. So there's all those little things on top of get myself ready. And then usually once all that's dialed in, horses warmed up, I'm warmed up, you got to start really zoning in on your mental game, because that's such a huge part at this level, is your mental game. And I've taken some notes from this guy and that guy, but you really just have to figure out what works for you and get your mind right. It seems like the point where I'm getting in my rodeo career, I'm almost getting to a maturity level to where if my mind ain't right, if my mind's not right that day, like I can catch myself and say, hey, we've been in this mind frame a lot before and it doesn't work. You're not going to do good. So I'm able to snap out of that and get my mind pointed in the right direction, no matter what that is. I'm hesitant to tell some of my secrets on here in case some of these cowboys I'm competing with.
No secrets. No trade.
They might go in there and steal some of my secrets and beat me. But it's whatever you got to do. If you're down on yourself and unconfident, maybe go back and look at some old rodeo videos on your phone and when you won and listen to the announcer talk about how good you are and this and that. It's such a fine line and so mental once you get to the point and you're a baseball guy. I'm sure it's just crazy high mental just to get above that 500 or whatever. I'm ignorant towards baseball.
Oh, dude. So for perspective, if you get a hit 3 out of 10 times on the major league level, you're a Hall of Famer for the most part. Like there are very few guys that had that played for a long time that had a career average 300 or above that are not in Cooperstown.
What's Cooperstown?
So that's the Baseball Hall of Fame. So
Okay.
that's kind of like, and that's been around for forever. And so that's where all, your Babe Ruths and your Ty Cobbs and, that's where all those guys have been memorialized. But you think about it like, wait a minute, you're the best in the world at this thing. And you're basically guaranteed to fail 75% of the time. Like you're not gonna be able to do what you want to do.
Has that changed like in the last 10 years per se? Like I don't know if the pitchers have gotten that much better, whereas there was only so far you could go as a hitter, or has it always been about 3 out of 10? It's
always been about 3 out of 10. Now, the last guy to hit 400 in a season was Ted Williams, and that's, over half a century ago. I mean, that's kind of what we're looking at. Tony Gwynn flirted with it a little bit. Larry Walker flirted with it. Ichiro flirted with it. But to get a hit 4 out of 10 times is like, it's completely unheard of. It doesn't make any sense. And what has changed in the game is, so back in the day, there wasn't a whole lot of analytics. And so the starting pitcher would pitch until they started getting rocked or until they got a little bit tired or something like that. But now guys are on like specific pitch counts. Like you're going to pitch this many pitches. A lot of teams will not let you, they won't let you go through a lineup for the third time because they have all your stats. You're like, okay, opponent, batting average is at its highest as you're pitching to them for the third time because they've seen you, they've kind of timed you, they have an idea of your cadence and those types of things. And so there's a lot more specialization. So there's guys coming out of the bullpen, they're only on the roster to do this one thing, to strike out guys like that, or to get guys like that to roll over on an off-speed pitch and, duck fart it to the other side of the infield and then it's an easy out, something like that. And so that's kind of what's happened with baseball is everyone's focusing on things like launch angle now. They're focusing on getting your OPS. OPS is a combination of on-base percentage and slugging percentage, all divided by the number of at-bats. I believe I said that right. And like it's like scientific now. It's like you're not playing a game as much as you're playing like a computer. And so you're trying to beat the computer. You're trying to do all those different things. You're trying to learn. So they kind of lost the feel for it, I guess. Like some of the old heads, some of the guys that have been around a while, they're like, these players don't have a feel.
It's not cool.
No they don't have a feel for the game.
Back in our day.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of a back in your day thing, but it's like, hey, every statistic would tell you take this pitcher out, but you as the manager or the pitching coach, you go to the mound and you visit him and you talk to him and you hear kind of how he's talking and he's still confident. He's still got a little gas in the tank. And you say, I got a good feeling about this. We're going to leave him in. And so now there's way too much like overthinking, like, nope, the spreadsheet says like, this is the point where we put this guy in the lineup and this is the point where that.
Has that brought it up, like the percentages?
No.
It's not.
Well, because look, as hitters are getting better, you've got pitchers that are getting better. And like back in the day, like every pitcher that comes out of the bullpen throws 98, 99, 100 with like an off-speed pitch. So like a curveball or slider that's in the 80s, something ridiculous like that. All of them. Back in the day, there was like 3 guys in the entire league that could throw like that. So all the hitters are getting better at the same time, but so are all the pitchers. And the game still lends itself to an advantage to a dominant pitcher because of the mound height and because of like, certain things.
I never even thought of that, huh?
Well, and the thing is the mound is 60 and a half feet away. The pitcher's rubber is 60 and a half feet away from home plate. That doesn't make a lot of sense until you watch it from the side. Yeah, when you watch the angle from the back on television, you're like, why didn't the guy swing? And I was like, because his brain didn't even know he was playing baseball. And so like to connect with his brain, to move his body, to like throw his hands at the pitch. And so I guess even like for you, what about the last 10 years of calf roping? Or what are the differences like from your day to your dad's day? Are there things where your dad's like, well, back in my day, it was like this? Or, hey, you young guys right now, y'all are so much better at X, Y, or Z.
No, I think it's a completely different game. Like my dad's day, I believe my dad was one of the first ones to start like shortening his rope. They used to have longer ropes because they would run up there on a lot bigger cattle and try to jerk them down, get a good hard jerk on this big old monster calf. And that longer rope allowed your horse to stop and give them more time to stop and get solid to hit that calf a hair harder. Whereas today they're a little bit smaller and we got to keep them standing up a lot of places. And so that's changed the game. Like they used to get off the left back in my dad's day, and that tied into getting a better jerk on the calf. They wanted your horse to be super straight, whereas they said as soon as they started getting off the right side, everyone was saying that everyone's horses were going to duck, and that was true in a sense. But in another sense, you have to now with the timing. Now we hold our slack. I don't know if you know what that means, but like I roped the calf by the throat, and I got my rope in my hand that I just roped him with, and I jump off with it in my hand, so the calf's pulling on it and pulling on me at the same time. So I'm getting that momentum, whereas they used to throw it to try to get that pop, and then you wouldn't get your momentum. So I think that's one of the key things that has changed in the game and made it so much faster. No one's getting off the left. You used to have to get off the left, duck under your rope. It just takes too long to where now we're all holding it, getting a send, getting down there. Back then, everyone would put 2 wraps on. I say everyone, but I'm sure there were times like we were at Dale's house the other day, Dale Brisby's house, and we were teaching them how to tie the dummy and stuff. And it used to all be 2 wraps, and then now it's gone to a wrap and a hui a lot of the times, which I believe it'll speed you up maybe 2/10, which back then maybe 2/10 wasn't a big deal, but now it can be first to fifth, or it can be placing or not placing. So I'm going to say like your average time back in my dad's day, earlier in my dad's day, I'd say like maybe his rookie year, they were like a 9 was a very fast time just because of the cattle and the way everyone was doing it. Whereas say that the exact same setup, we're tying those calves in 7, which is,
Wow.
quite a difference. I would say way more of a difference than the baseball guys. How you said it hasn't changed a ton. But the roping is dang sure changed. I don't know about the rough stock guys. That's kind of out of my deal. But as the calf roping, I got to say that, and the team roping has dang sure changed.
Yeah, I don't even know like for bull riding, because you still kind of hear some of the same names like of bulls, like Bodacious, and like
I think they're way ranker though. Like I think Bodacious got so well known because of how dangerous he was. He had that big drop. And then he got smart with it. He would do the drop, and then he'd start throwing his head up and hitting those guys, and no one wore a helmet back then. So it was game over, and people would get on the fence to watch that bull. But now I think that bull maybe wouldn't even be that rank anymore. There's just so many more genetics and stuff, and not only are the bulls ranker, but the cowboys are professionals now. I was in Decatur working out with my buddy Cliff Cooper. It's actually, I've told you about his brother Tuff.
Yeah.
And so Cliff was a personal trainer there, and we went and did some workouts. And I think it was me, another calf roper, and then there were like 5 other Brazilian bull riders. And let me tell you, those guys, they're athletes. They're they're not the old school cowboys. So as the level of the bulls have changed, the cowboys had to change with them too. And I think it's pretty evident.
Well, I mean, you look at it when you mentioned the UFC, and I mentioned Hoist Gracie earlier. That's why you can't compare people from one era to another era, because Hoist Gracie, if he fought in the welterweight division right now in the UFC, oh my gosh, like he would be absolutely destroyed. He'd be way too one-dimensional.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, his style of jiu-jitsu is
it's hard to talk like that, because I can talk about calf ropers that are retired now, and I'd be like, well, they wouldn't be so dominant in my day, but it's hard to compare those guys, because if Hoist Gracie, he was such a dominant guy, if he had to compete nowadays and start where everyone else does, he would have leveled up as well.
Right.
So, but it's super cool to look back and look at that. Like you said, he would get dummied a bunch nowadays if he come in with that style, and the same with the calf roping, same with bull riding, everything.
Yeah, I mean, people look now, they're like, well, if Babe Ruth played today, he wouldn't be able to hit ball. It's like, well, he did play it 100 years ago. So there is that. And so, yes, the game has changed. Velocity has gone up. The technology of the ball has changed considerably, because like when I was up at Cooperstown, I got to take a private tour. I was thankful to be able to do that. I got to hold Babe Ruth's bat. Well, his bat felt like holding a log that had been like in a river for, 10 years or whatever. It was so unbelievably heavy. Most guys now are not swinging bats that are that heavy. You have guys that are swinging bats that have more of a torpedo shape. That's something that kind of came out this year because they're trying to increase the size of the sweet spot of the bat. One of the weird things is Ichiro, which a lot of guys know, he was more of a slap hitter, really, really fast left-handed hitter. The guy, the curator of the museum that's giving me a private tour, like he goes, "You're a baseball guy, right? Like you played a lot." And I'm like, "I'm going to hand you a bat. It's Ichiro's bat. I just want you to tell me if you notice anything about it." So he hands me this bat. So I'm holding it. I'm just kind of like shaking it in my hand, just like, when any guy that gets a bat for the first time, you just kind of shake it, see how it feels in your hand. And I start shaking it, and you could see him start to smile because I think he knew I was about to say it. But I was like, it feels like all the weight is in the very end of this bat. And he smiles real big, and he's like, exactly. Because Ichiro's game was predicated on slapping the ball hard the opposite way and then outrunning the throw to first base. That's what his game was predicated on. He wasn't a dead pull hitter. He didn't like try to hit for power or any of that. And so he wanted the bat almost to slap down at the baseball. He didn't want this big launch angle. He wanted more of a flat swing or a flat down swing where he had more of a chance.
He knew his game, and it worked.
But if you had given that bat to another left-handed hitter like Ken Griffey Jr. or something like that, he probably doesn't hit nearly as well with it. And so that's why everybody kind of specifies. So, all right, so let's go. You're ready to go. I want you to take us through the entire 7 or so seconds. Okay, take us through the fastest time you've ever had in your career as a pro, and take us through. So what was your mindset? What was kind of the thing you did beforehand? What did you whisper in your horse's ear? All the things.
I'm not a horse whisperer.
Not a horse whisperer. Okay, so talk about the prep, and then we've got the actual event, and then you're done. The timer's done. Describe it from soup to nuts.
This is perfect. This is perfect for this podcast too, I think. I might be hesitant. I'd probably tell a different story that's not the truth, but this one is the truth.
Okay, good.
Napa, Idaho. I was on my good horse, Ghost. I actually bought him here in Oklahoma. Just sold him to I believe he's a 12-year-old kid. It's a perfect fit. I'm glad he went there. But I had Ghost, and I didn't think I could tie calves very fast. I don't know if that makes sense. Fastest times win, like we said, timed event. So I didn't think I could tie him very fast on him. And long story short on that, some horses just have qualities that, if they slide a lot or they don't stop very fast, that eats up the clock. If they don't pull the calf to you a bunch, it's tenths here and there that make a huge difference. And I never thought he was going to be one of those fast clock stopping horses. And he hadn't been to that point. And I'd been hadn't been winning anything. And rodeo's such a hard game mentally. You can be number one in the world, and then it all come crashing down just like that. So I hadn't been winning anything. I've been really down. I believe it was at Napa. So it was just after the 4th of July run. Went to all those rodeos, 4th of July. They call it the Cowboy Christmas. It's crazy. You can win all kinds of money. I didn't. Had crappy luck here and there. And finally, I got to a point, I'm like, I'm not even going to think. I'm going to think about God the whole time. I'm going to let him do his thing. If I fall off the back of my horse, if I don't even touch the calf with my rope, so be it. I said, I'm just going to think about God. You know, like I said earlier, we've got our little steps that we have to take, just like a putter walking up to make a putt. And I was like, wasn't even going to think of that. I was going to tie my rope on, put my picking string in my mouth, and just go back in the box and just think about God, think about how good God is, everything. And so I back in there, had a pretty good calf. It was the second round. First round didn't go very good. It's a fast setup there, like some rodeos like Guyman tomorrow. If you're a 9-second run, it's probably a decent run. It's a 3 head, so if you tie 3 and 9, you're probably going to get paid pretty good. And so this was a quicker setup, like they tie them in 6s and 7s there. And I'd never been 6 before, and I knew that's probably what it was going to take, short 7, long 6. So like I said, nothing was going good. I backed in there. I just completely shut everything off. Didn't worry about the tight neck catch. Didn't worry about flanking, tying tight, anything. Backed in there, nodded my head, and it's just like a movie played out, you know, like, you know, probably like baseball, those guys that make that perfect hit or perfect pitch. It was almost just fluent to them, and almost like they were sitting beside themselves watching it come over. And it was that way. I think I probably 3 swung, took 3 swings, caught this calf, spun him around, put a wrap and a hooey on, like I said, took the little shortcut. I think I was 6'8", and I believe my fastest time up to that point was only 7 flat. Whereas a 6 seconds run, that's your pinnacle. Like that's what you try to be every time. And there's probably only maybe 5 of them throughout the whole year, throughout all the rodeos, 500 plus rodeos, 600 plus rodeos, Canada and US. I bet there's only half a dozen 6-second runs recorded. So I was 6'8" there. And, like I said, it was my toughest decision to finally let go, but the easiest one at the same time, because it transcended into that favorite run of mine. And, you know, and then it's cool that way too, because like right now I get to give God the glory for that, because like whether or not you believe in God, whatever God is, I believed in it at that time, and it didn't fail me, you know, and he, whether you win or lose, or like I said, fall off, you got to know that you got to trust God, and you got to know that that's on purpose. And I think that it was really cool that he allowed me to do that. And it was my first, you know, I've always tried to let God take over in my roping and stuff like that, because I know at the end of the day I'll be better off whether, you know, no matter what it is. But for the first time, like completely give my run, so to speak, over to him, and then him to bring me through on my fastest time to date, you know, I thought it was really special. And now I try to use that all the time, and it doesn't always work. And like I said, the hardest and the easiest part is to be in that mind frame and let God take over.
One part of it is not, you did just let go and let God. You did a lot of preparation. You did a lot of training. You had been, in some ways, training your entire life. And then when it got to the results time, you can't control results. Like, you can only control preparation. You can control, to a degree, your mindset.
Yeah.
But once you get there, it's like, it just kind of is what it is. I mean, at a jiu-jitsu tournament, like, everybody there has the same goal. They all want to be at the very top of the podium, but only one guy gets to be at the top of the podium. Okay, what's the difference between you and that guy? Sometimes you're going to be that guy. Sometimes you're not going to be that guy.
Yep.
But you can control your preparation. You can't control if the other guy's just better than you that day.
Yeah.
And so, but I mean, that day, so did you end up winning? Did you take first place?
Well, no, I actually didn't. If there was one guy to beat me, it was my good buddy. I think he was like 6'6", which is probably, I think it was recorded the fastest time of that year. And I think he was 6'6" or 6'7", barely beat me, whatever. I think we had dinner that night. It's not like we're mad at each other about it, you know. But I wish I could say it was, and I won that round. And I have won that specific round at that specific rodeo, but I was like a half a second slower. So that kind of puts into perspective on how fast we actually were that day. But no, I didn't get the round.
Okay, so how much? So I've thought about this in terms of like the 100 meters, right? Like at the Olympics, you know, I forget what it's like, 9.58 or something is what Usain Bolt ran. What would have been the 2008 Olympics? I think that's still standing as the 100 meter world record. And these guys are as fast can be. Genetically speaking, they're they're perfect for their body and their modality and their foot strike, and they've got
freaks almost.
yeah, they're literal freaks, but then they've got the best nutrition. They've got the best recovery. They've got the best coaches and training programs. And you've seen people try to get these, sub 2 hour, sub 2 hour marathons and all this type of thing. I just wonder where the gap is. Is 958 as fast as a human is going to get? Like without, them getting robot legs or, have an AI race or something weird like
probably
that.
going to be until someone beats it.
Right.
Isn't it? There was a record there on how fast you could run a mile, and they said that it would never get broken.
Yeah.
And then the one guy broke it, and now
it was
everyone
a 4
can
minute
break
mile
it. Yeah,
or-
that's it.
Yeah.
Yep.
So in your world, like realistically, so you said your buddy beat you with like a 6'6", right? And like you were at a 6'8". Like what's the fastest time ever in that event? And is there anything that can be done to shave a 10th at this point?
It's going to get beat. Yeah.
Okay.
I bet if it ain't this year, it's within the next 3. 100%.
So what's the fastest?
6'3" is the fastest. That was Ricky Canton. I think it was maybe even the last year my dad was rodeoing. It was in Canada, Strathmore, Alberta. I remember I was a little kid. I was snaring gophers in the back, and they said Ricky Canton, 6'3". I remember where I was even standing. I remember kind of looking over there, not thinking it was real. So 6'3" is the record. This would have been early 2000s, 2005, 2006, something like that. But I think with, like we mentioned, the cattle getting a little bit better, they're getting smaller, which makes it faster. There's a little bit more athletes nowadays. My buddy Shad Mayfield has actually unofficially been 6'1" 2 times. One was, it would have been a week and a half ago at San Angelo. And how I mentioned that when the time starts, when that barrier rope pulls, that's our penalty. That's the only penalty we can get if we go too fast. So we have to give the calf a head start. And if we shortcut or leave too fast, we'll break the little string that's in front, and then we get a 10-second penalty. So that's called the barrier, if that makes sense or not. Yeah. So my buddy Shad, he was 6'1" at San Angelo a week and a half ago, but he broke the barrier. And I say that like it's legit, but it's not legit, because it's not like he took a huge cheat shortcut to where it's unofficial, I guess. Like he legitimately was that fast, but just like a half an inch difference made him from beating the record to having that 10-second penalty. So he went from being the world record holder by 2/10, a record that hasn't been beat in almost 20 years, to being a 16-second time. And I say that story, and I think it's pretty cool because he was also a 6'1" at the national finals 2 years ago, I guess now. A completely different run. It was probably the coolest run I've ever seen. But the only other penalty, I guess I would say, it's not really a penalty, but you get a complete no time. Once you tie your calf, you have to go get back on your horse and then ride your horse ahead, and then that calf has to stay down for 6 seconds. Soon as your rope gets slacked, they start a clock. There's a guy standing there, he starts a clock. So they have to stay down for 6 seconds. And if they get up, it's a no time. So that buddy of mine, he was 6'1" at the NFR, and then rode ahead. The calf got up, no time. So like I said, he went from holding the world record to a no time. So, but I think because of that, it might be a 4-minute mile scenario that we see unfolding in front of us, but I think it's dang sure gonna get beat. I'm gonna say in July. I think in right after the Calgary Stampede this year. I wouldn't doubt they get it. And if I get the right go, I think I can put that run together too.
Hey, if you do, you better let us know. We'll give everybody an update on the show.
Put a clip on it.
Well, I mean, let's just kind of talk. So you're 30. How long do calf roping careers last? And then, just like with any type of professional athlete or professional sport or something like that, Father Time's undefeated, even with good genetics and, good everything else being taken care of. One day your career is going to be over, and you better have a plan for afterwards, because how many guys you see, they they burn bright, but then they burn out. They and they just kind of burn fast. Here they are. They're 31 years old. They're not a pro anymore, and their entire identity is wrapped up in being a professional, whatever. And now they're like, well, shoot, what am I going to do now? And so, like, kind of the easy thing is, okay, I'll coach the thing I was just good at. But you're either a good coach or you're not. It's kind of hard to learn how to be a good coach. So, what does your trajectory look like from here?
Yeah, it's cool you asked me that because I've been battling with that for about the last year or so, maybe even longer. Not that I think that it's anytime soon. I think it's all up to God. And when God first found me, I didn't find him. When he first found me, that's something that we kind of talked about, him and I. Like, I feel like he told me, there is going to come a date where you're not going to rodeo anymore. And at that time, so it was 2016, it was August 2016, up to that point, I was a young kid, everything's in front of me, and I was going to rodeo my whole life, this and that. And then God kind of put into perspective, there's going to be an end date on this. And I had never thought of it that way before. And I know I've talked about my dad a lot, but I respect him a bunch for that too. He made the finals his last year and he stepped away from it. So I thought it was cool that he kind of was able to retire on top. And that's been one of my main goals of my career, probably a top 5 goal, as silly as it sounds, is to retire like when I want to retire and retire at the right time. Because like you said, you see so many guys burn out, or you see it a lot in the rodeo world, guys that should be retired that aren't going still. And I don't know if they lose respect or not, or if that's just a pride thing that I think of, but I dang sure want to retire. I don't want to retire when I need to. I want to retire when I want to.
Yeah.
But as far as dates, I don't know. It's going really good this year. I think I'm about 5th in the world. Best year I've ever had up to this point. Have a really good chance. Got a good buddy in Canada right now. I've been riding his horse, and calf roping is such about, like, you can be the best roper in the world. If you're riding not a very good horse, you won't even crack the top 30. Whereas a guy that might rope half as good as him rides the best horse, he'll be at the finals every year. You see it every time. So I got a really good horse this year. I've just been riding a buddy of mine's, and then I've got that young one over here that's coming up really nice too. So I think it's not this year for sure, but I think I don't know. I pray a lot. I try to talk to God more than I talk to anyone else, and I mean not just in a week, but every day. And I think that He'll let me know when it's time. And right now is dang sure not the time, but we'll see. There's a lot of variables.
Well, I've made you talk for over an hour, so you got to, get caught back up on your drive to Guyman. But no, just literally today, like this afternoon, I saw a quote from my favorite fighter of all time, who I think is the greatest MMA fighter of all time, that's Georges St. Pierre. So, long-time welterweight, 170-pound champion, goes away, comes back, wins the middleweight championship, beats Michael Bisping. I think it was in New York City. So now he, got 185, 170. So he basically wins that 185 and then retires. He didn't retire immediately. He's like, stomach problems, whatever. But, all told, I think he's the best guy ever. But he literally said a quote similar to what you just said. It's like, no, like, I don't want to go away when most of the time in MMA, your last fight, you are face down, bloody, and unconscious, and that's your last fight. And when you wake up, you realize, oh shoot, I should probably cut my gloves off and put them down in the middle of the octagon. So it's not great. It's not a very casual sport for most guys. But if you can structure your career in a way to where you can go out on your own terms, Dustin Poirier was just announced that he's going to be in, who knows, if there's going to be an injury or something since then. But as of the recording of this,
one more, doesn't he?
One more fight. It's going to be in Louisiana, which is where he's from. It'll be in New Orleans, and he's fighting Max Holloway, a guy that he's fought before and that he's beaten before. It's for the the stupid made up BMF belt, but here it is. I guess it's a real thing. But the thing is he's taken some damage. He's had some wars.
Yep.
But he still has all of his mental faculties. He can make sentences. He's still relatively young. He's old in MMA years, but he's still a relatively young guy. He's made a ridiculous amount of money. He's got a really, really, really good reputation.
Yeah. And
he's got options. So as opposed to going in there and fighting, you're fighting top of the bill and then you slowly start working your way down. Okay, now you're on the prelims. Okay, you're getting knocked out on the prelims, but they're keeping you around because you got a name. He's like, no, I'm going to go out with a championship fight. Again, it's a made up belt. It's not a real thing, but it's like, but I'm going to go out where there's something on the line and I'm fighting in front of, my hometown crowd, as it were. And so, I mean, that's a better plan than, your family having to sit you down and be like, hey, isn't it about time? Can we please stop with the calf roping?
That's super cool. Yeah.
So you talk a lot to God, you calf rope, you do all that. Is there anything else that you do? Or is it literally just like rodeo and eating chicken wings with your buddy Kyle, also named Kyle?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kyle Squared.
Yeah, that's right.
No, and we chatted about it a little bit. I think hunting is my other passion for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's so much my passion to where I can watch a podcast, I can watch a show on YouTube, and then all of a sudden I'm locked in full hunter mode. I'm making plans. When does this season open? Ordering this gear for this hunt, texting this guy, hey, what are you doing on this? And then pretty soon I'm like, shoot, I got a rodeo this weekend. So they're dang sure both my passion, but it seems like I can drift a lot easier to hunting. I don't know if that's just the way it is, but there's something deep rooted in every man or woman. I think just survival over the years to where hunting is such in our bloodlines to where it's so natural to where, I can't wait till I'm done rodeoing so then I can hunt more too. I'm going to miss rodeoing, but then I might get to do a lot more hunting, God willing. So I'm dang sure once I get done rodeoing, it's not like my goals are over, like you said. I mean, it's going to be tough. Every athlete that been on the big stage and has heard your name called in front of tens of thousands of people, you get that dopamine hit. And then when that's no longer there for you, there's a lot of withdrawals from that. But, I'm so fixated on hunting after to where I just can't wait to be able to go down that avenue as well.
So I'm going to make you tell your bad hunting story because one of the times when we were hanging out, you told me this. It's just a heartbreaking story because if you've ever experienced anything similar, it's just the worst. But I guess you had a not so fun ending to an elk hunt, right?
Yeah, and I'm a positive person. It sucks, but I'm not going to let that take away from the experience by any means. So I've always, as I said, I've been very, very involved in hunting. My dad hunted growing up, taught me everything about hunting, and my grandpa too. I remember pack trips out to the mountains with my grandpa would have been 80 some years old. My dad would have been 40 something years old. And grandpa might have been 70. I don't know, whatever it was. They're old timers and packing in there 2-3 days, spending a week out in the mountains. So I was very much brought up in the hunting world as well. So getting to do that and but elk hunting's always been on my list. And then it seems like as soon as all this social media stepped in, I got to looking at podcasts and videos of that Cam Haines. I'm sure everyone knows Cam Haines if they hunt or maybe even rodeo. I mean, he has rodeo guys on there all the time. Dusty Tuckness was just up there running the mountain with him and shooting bows with him. So I got not only brought into that to where I was more so motivated to go elk hunting, but Joe Rogan talking about elk hunting, like it was just everything was just tying in, and I was going into almost a rabbit hole of specifically elk hunting, and which I'm stuck in now, I think, though, because of this experience. But got a really good buddy in Canada. He's got some of the best elk hunting in the world. I'm not even going to say his name. He didn't want me putting a picture of him on there. It's that prestigious. It's that good of an area. I don't even know how I got him talked into it. Like, my dad's tried to go out there, and his dad and my dad rodeoed together, same era, they're buddies, So I got super blessed to be able to go out there with him. I don't even know what the date was. Maybe the second or third week of September. Might have been later than that, but the rifle season was dang sure long ways away. So went out to his place, Western Alberta, just outskirts of the mountains, rolling hills, a lot of trees. I drive out to his place. We go meet at their ranch. We go to where we're going to start hiking around. We step out of the truck, and within 30 seconds, we can hear elk bugling.
Wow.
And that was so natural for him. He's like, yep, there they are. We'll go that way. And I'm like sitting there smiling. I'm like, This is what I've been wanting to do. So we step out and get geared up, elk screaming already. We take off. My my buddy had been showing me some pictures of some elk that he's seen before. You know, elk live for a long time, so he had some history with some elk that were living on their land and coming through their land. So we chase around a few, we sneak in on a few. He's kind of Apache style hunting. He doesn't call. He finds out where they are and sneaks up in there, see how close we can get, see how big they are. So we snuck in there, and there were some really nice bulls, 6x6 bulls, but younger. And I'm ready.
Yeah.
I got my release locked onto my bow. You know, I'm like, should we shoot this one? I'm like hoping he says yes. And he's like, no. He kind of laughs, you know, we got better ones, whatever. So we hear this big, deep bugle and some cows kind of talking. I didn't know cows talk so much. And these cows, they kind of chirp, you know?
Yeah.
And I didn't know they talk so much. And I kind of whispered to him about that. And he said, you know, I've never heard that either. So I don't know what the deal was there. We got it on film too. It was cool. These cows were really talkative. So we get a glimpse of this bull, is the big 5, we called him, because he was just a big 5x5. And usually you want to kind of knock the 5x5s out of the genetic pool, but he was so smart and so big as a 5. I think he was giving him some more time because he knew he was going to be special. And I think he ended up growing a 6 that year on his one time, but we called him the big 5. So we got a glimpse of him walking, got across the trail, kind of just right, I don't know, 100 yards from where we passed up a 6x6. Cows were chirping like they were. We noticed it was the big 5, and he looks over at me and he's grinning. He's got his video camera, and he puts the camera on me, and he said, Kyle's going to kill the 5x5 today. You know, and he showed me pictures of this bull and all kinds of stuff. Just a monster 5x5. I mean, you know, when you see the pictures of them in that last tine just tips way down, like they could scratch their tailbone just by barely moving. Like he had all that cool stuff, you know, huge fronts. He was super cool. So Kyle was going to kill the 5x5, and we snuck back around. This is all low fence hunting for people that don't know. This is Alberta, wild west. So we snuck back around, dip under just a 4-wire barbed wire fence, kind of sneak up around. I think we got 130 yards from them. Like I said, all the cows were around there. They're making their noise, and we kind of got pinned down, though. We couldn't get any closer than 130, and he'd asked me before. He said, where are you comfortable at? I said, shoot, let's get him 40 yards or closer, and he kind of laughed at me, so I knew we were going to have to stretch it out a little bit, and I had been shooting quite a long distances. I'd been shooting 80 yards, you know, pretty frequently, and I didn't know if he thought I was confident out to that, but we dang sure didn't get a shot at him at 130. It got too dark on us. We knew where he was at. We backed out, come out the next day. He was on the neighbor's yard where we're not allowed to hunt. I was kind of thinking of all kinds of plans, how to do the poor me, go ask the neighbors, and that my buddy said, no, you'll have more luck just waiting for him to come back to our side. So
Okay.
So we did, and he never did come back. Long story long, actually.
No, dude, there are so many people in our audience that are like on the edge of their seat there right now. Okay, and then what happened next? So keep going.
Yeah, well, I watched that bull all morning. My buddy had to go take his kids to school, and I think he boards horses, so he had to do some stuff with that, get some feed, whatever. But he put me on this little perch with his spot and scope, and I watched that bull all day. I listened to the bull all day. By the time he got onto the neighbor's pasture on this side hill, he had probably 70 cows with him. So I think it was maybe a couple different herds had met there, which must have drawn him from the land that he owned that we were allowed to hunt to the ones we weren't, because there were probably half a dozen other bulls. They would come challenge him. They'd get their butt whooped. They'd run off, and, you know, he had to keep track of all of these girls. And it was just amazing to watch how fast those elk move. I forget what they said, but the stride between 4 steps or moving all 4 legs is just, you wouldn't believe how much they can stretch out, because I'd see that bull out in the pasture, and then in a little patch of the trees up high, I'd see a big bull step into this little patch, and I'd get the spot and scope on him quick. I'm like, surely that bull couldn't have moved that fast up there. Sure enough, it's the big 5.
Yeah.
So he was tempting me all day. He was he wasn't getting any closer to where we needed him to be. So it was getting to be, kind of time to where we had to make a plan for the evening. Hunting, you've been hunting enough to where like prime time is first thing in the morning, right before dark. And so it was getting time to where we had to make a before dark plan. Knew that big bull wasn't going to come out, so we decided to check a few other places. Drove around a little bit, got to some good spots, jumped out, checked this one little opening. And that buddy of mine, I wish I could say his name because he's such a professional. Like he grew up chasing those elk. He knew where every creek, every pond, every opening was on all their thousands of acres of land. And it was just so cool. And he just had got back from a hunt from, he was like in Kyrgyzstan or something, hunt some kind of sheep. So he was in good shape. I thought I was in good shape. Canadian finals was coming up in a month. So I was ready to go, but I was sweating, panting, going up over tops, about to peak some hills. And I'd be like, just wait, let me catch my breath in case there's something here we got to shoot at and I got to pull off a good shot.
Yeah.
I said, I can't keep up with you. So that being said, he kind of knew a little spot we could look into this opening. And we sure enough did. And like, if it was me, I would have walked up to the opening, looked in there. These cows would have seen us, would have been gone. So he got in his little spot where we could see, look through the opening. Oh, there's some cows. Let's sneak around. It's rut. If there's cows, there's probably going to be a bull. So we back out. We get snuck around, get the wind right. There wasn't much wind at all. We had to move really slow. And that's the cool part about when you're hunting with a good hunters, when there's a perfect wind, you got a perfect setup, it's hard to, or it's easy to fool people, but when it's tough, that's when you see like a true good hunter. And like I said, I was fortunate enough to kind of know what that is with my dad growing up with him. So I was able to follow him around. We got the wind right. We got to where we could see this opening to see if there was a bull. And before that happened, a little, I don't know what he was, a 3x3 bull kind of snuck in behind us. And he kind of seen us, but didn't really, younger bull. He seen some movement. Oh, there's some girls, just like humans, young and dumb. Oh, some girls there, but he wouldn't ever go up there to go after these girls. So we were kind of pinned down. We were maybe 40 yards from this opening, and we were pinned down right. There was a perfect spruce tree. It would have been a perfect Christmas tree. Just imagine a tree between me and my buddy. And this bull was maybe 60 yards beside us, I think he was. So he had us pinned down. Another bull come in, little bull, like same deal, had us pinned down over here, maybe 60, 80 yards. It's all thick trees and stuff, though, where we're at before this opening. And we finally got a glimpse of the bull, the big daddy that was looking over and taking care of all the girls. It was a beautiful bull. And when I first seen him, like I knew that, and especially getting late in the evening as our last day of the hunt, I think even if it was the first day of the hunt, I would have got the A-OK to go after this bull. Like it was a really nice bull. Like looked at him instantly, knew, so I was kind of getting ready, getting my mind ready. In case I had to pull off a shot, because rifle hunting's one thing, put the X on it, pull the trigger, but bow hunting, there's so many variables. I've never killed big game. I've killed some coyotes and stuff like that, but I've never killed big game with my bow. Been shooting it my whole life. So get my mind right, get the A-OK for my buddy. He's like, yep, that's a pretty nice bull. And these cows started seeing that something was going on. They kind of busted us, really. They knew we were there, but we had two windows we could shoot out of. And that bull kind of kept running back and forth, keeping his girls in order. And these cows would kind of look at us, and the bull would round them up, this and that. But then the bull would never step out into the windows. But we were able to see, like, finally this bull was kind of walking towards this cow that come in the opening. My buddy says, yeah, that cow's 83 yards. So, we kind of geared in for that. I got an adjustable sight, set it for, I think I just put it just on top of my 80 yard deal. I'm running out of wind. I'm getting excited about this story.
Yeah, dude, let's go.
So this cow steps into the window. Buddy ranges him at 83, and then we can kind of just barely see this bull start coming over there. The cow steps out of the window. He steps into the window, and so I draw my bow, and he's just kind of barely quartered away. I mean, not enough to even be able to tell hardly. So he's facing to the right, and I draw my bow. My buddy says, yep, 83 yards. He must have stepped right in her tracks. And then I remember the last 3 arrows that I shot. You know, when everything just zones in at that time, like, you know, everyone says everything's slow motion.
Yep.
So it was one of those moments as I drew my bow back, and I remember my last 3 shots at my target at 80 yards. I remember they were a hair low and a hair to the right for whatever reason. But I remembered that as I drew my bow. So I aimed just barely high and barely to the left, just to like trick my mind almost. You know, I'm like, I'm not missing this sucker. So I shot, let my arrow go, waiting forever. In my mind, I'm like, dang it, I missed. Knew I missed. All of a sudden, smack. I was like, frick. I shot over him. It hit a tree in the back. I was 100% sure. I was like, dang it. Told my buddy, I was like, I missed him. Did you hear that? Like, it was super loud smack. Just like I thought I hit a 12-inch tree 20 yards behind him, 30 yards behind him because of how long it took to get there. And they run off. It's probably an hour before dark. So we give it just a minute. We wanted to go check, make sure I did miss. Didn't find any blood. Dang it, thought I missed. Well, let's go get my arrow in the tree behind. Turns out there's no trees behind for about 90 yards. So I'm like, well, maybe that's why it took so long to make that smack. Couldn't find my arrow. I'm like, I guess we better back out. I was working for my dad at the time. He wanted me back the next morning. But I'm like, nope, I got to go look for this bull, see if I hit him or something, you know, or at least find my arrow. And just to be sure, and my dad being a good old boy, used to hunt. He's like, oh, yeah, you got to go look. And so we backed out there. We got right beside that Christmas tree that we said we stood beside. And we looked at every single branch that it could have hit, every twig that it could have hit, because I thought, since how far back those trees were, that there's no way that arrow went that far and hit a tree. So it must have hit a branch, a twig, whatever, and deflected and then hit a tree. So we went back and there's tricks you can do. You can look through binoculars and focus them in on closer and farther stuff. So we did that, looked at every branch, looked at every tree it could have hit. Nothing, couldn't find nothing. So my buddy, like I said, he knows every creek, every river, and we kind of seen the way those cows went. So we went all the way around, way farther than we thought they would go if we did spook them, just to maybe either get another chance at him or if he was hurt, say I did hit him in the back leg or something like that, that we figured he would have held up in that area. So we went way around a few miles, come back in, nothing. Walk all the way back up. We'd put a stake right where I shot where I had thought I hit him. Like I went and stood and we counted off 80 yards, put a peg there, just to know. So we got all the way back to the peg and we're like, I don't know, let's go back to the brush. Let's get 30 yards apart and go walking down there, didn't find a drop of blood, didn't find nothing. And I think I was maybe, 100 yards in front of my buddy, and all of a sudden he hollers, "Oh, here he is!" And I didn't believe it at the time because, like I said, I thought I hit a tree, not a drop of blood. Sure enough, we walk over there, and I seen him laying there. He'd kind of died running, so his feet were kind of under him, but his head was up, so I could just see his antlers. He was facing away, and that big, he ended up being a 6x7 bull. Just big, beautiful bull. It was like all my dreams coming true. And I thought I had missed him, and it was cool. He didn't bleed a drop, and I had shot a hair high and a hair to the left.
Right.
Like I probably shot within 5 inches of where I was aiming. Just remember I said I had to trick my mind. but it was like high in the lungs. I got both lungs really good, but it was high in the lungs, so he never bled. It filled up his lungs, and I think we counted it like 120 yards. So shoot, I don't know how long does it take. Like I said, you'd be surprised how quick an elk can travel.
Yep.
So however long that took to go 120 yards, I mean, 8 seconds maybe, he was dead. So that was cool that way too, and that was my biggest fear was, hit him bad, having him suffer. Hunters don't hunt for animals to suffer.
Yep.
We do it to feed our family and stuff. And that ties into what you were saying about the worst part of the story at the end. So waiting a day, it wasn't that cool of an evening. So that dang sure didn't play a very good role, waiting a full day to, I guess it wasn't a full day. It was probably 12 hours by the time we found him to when I shot him. Maybe it would have been longer than that, I guess. Maybe 16 hours, we'll say. And so, yeah, we found him, took some beautiful pictures. That's what my buddy, he's all about, taking some good pictures, honoring
Yep.
the elk. They love them. That's why they don't let people hunt there, because they love the elk. And they got, and remind me to tell you about the 5x5 story too.
Yeah.
At the end, but they love their elk. They honor them. They take pictures of them. And we got him all field dressed, and we were able to actually drive the truck pretty close. So it was easy. It was easy hunt. Well, I think we only had to pack meat, I don't know, a couple 100 yards, which is not bad at all.
Not at all.
A lot of the hunters have to pack them 10 miles or maybe more. So it was easy that way. We don't butcher our own, I guess. Like we do sometimes, I guess we'll quarter it out ourselves, or not quarter it out, like debone it and everything.
Right.
But we just didn't have the setup at this time. So I got calling around all the butcher shops, and everyone is full, it seems like. And it's funny because usually early bow season, there's not as many kills and stuff. But like middle of November, I could see those places being right full. But for whatever reason, I called 3 or 4 different shops in the area, and they couldn't get me in. And come that evening, the next day, I think we got a friend of a friend he does his own butchering or something. So we brought it there. And long story short, it ended up being bad. So that was pretty sad, and great big North American elk. Kind of all that meat had to go to waste just because of that. So I guess we need to start butchering our own or something, because that was pretty sad. But I put that I put that bull online, put a picture of him, and I ended up getting him mounted. He's on the wall in our shop next to my dad's, which mine's way bigger.
That's right.
But
Rub it in.
yeah, no, it ended up being, a great bull. I think he ended up scoring 340, which I don't know, for my first big game archery kill. I think pretty near everyone's happy with a 300 plus bull, and then my first archery kill on a North American elk to be over 300. I would have been happy with a dang spiker. Believe me, I would have been happy with a spiker, but to kill that nice of a bull, my first chance, and then, like I said, for him to only go 120, 130 yards, that was special too. And just to be able to have that heightened focus to where when you're shooting 83 yards with a bow, that in your mind, it feels like it takes so long that I thought I missed him, and then it hit a tree 30 yards behind him was just crazy. Like that was that smacking of the ribs. It went through both sides of him. I was able to find the arrow and stuff. It had, we found it up on the outside of the opening that we shot him. The arrow there was a perfect line on a tree where it went through like 90%. It was sticking on the outside of him, and it just touched that tree. So there was a perfect line. The 3/4 of my arrow was right there on the ground, and then the rest of it was just barely sticking out on the other side. So it was cool. Like I got a picture of him, and I got the arrow I used hanging up on the wall, plus him on the wall. So it was super neat. And then, like I said, to finish the story about the 5x5.
5x5, yeah.
So this was 2 seasons ago, and my buddy never did see the 5x5 all year this year. No word of him. I mean, he was kind of famous. There's other cowboys that live in the area actually that hunt as well, that know about him and have his sheds. I mean, he was getting to be kind of prestigious bull.
Yeah.
So a guy ended up shooting with a rifle at the end of this year. He had a broke off tine, and he still won the big game award on score. I forget what he scored, but he was just so big with a broken tine, being a 5x5. I think he was a 6 on the one side, but he still won the big game deal.
Man.
So we had a chance at him, but I think it worked out exactly the way it was supposed to. So it was pretty fun. It was top 3 experience of my life for sure.
So are you going to get a chance to go back and hunt this, or was that kind of a one and done?
I'm not sure. I've got a draw. It's probably a 16-year draw, maybe 15-year draw, something between there. So I'm getting to be about that time. I might have to put in, and if I get it, I might have to drop a hint to my buddy that I need to go back out there again. But
yeah.
We'll see. I don't know. I was pretty thankful that they just let me go out there one time.
Oh, that's the thing. Anytime that I go hunt, because I go hunt whitetail at my buddy's property here in Oklahoma, it's pretty close to the house, can get there very easily. They do a great job with it. And like, I never take it for granted, because I've literally watched, I won't use any of the people's names, but we were out there one year. I think it was the night before opening a rifle. And there was a guy that, was more known to the other people. I'd kind of seen him at church a couple of times or whatever. And we're figuring out, because there's a bunch of different stands, and there's like a big map up on the wall. So we all eat dinner, and then we go over the map on the wall. We're figuring out, where people want to go. Now, me understanding reciprocity and not being a jerk, I don't make any recommendations, right? And I don't volunteer myself for any of the best spots, right? Because the people that own the property, the people that work the property year round that were out there hunting with us, it's like, okay, yeah, like I'll hunt wherever y'all don't want to hunt. Well, apparently this guy wanted to hunt a particular blind because he had a good feeling about it or something like that. But one of the other people who works the land throughout the entire year and helps get it ready and get the corn out and all that, his like 15-year-old or 16-year-old son wanted to hunt that stand. And so like that's where the kid was going to be put. And this adult male in his 40s got so mad that he didn't get his way on a property that he didn't own and didn't have to pay to hunt, that he said he doesn't say a word. He grabs his bag, gets in his truck, takes off. He doesn't say a word to anybody. Wow. And like, I'm looking around, and then I go and look out where all the cars are. I'm like, wait, did such and such so-and-so, did he leave? Wow. And then we're all looking around like, wait. And that's exactly what this guy did. And I'm sitting there like, you are literally, because on this land, I mean, you're going to get something during the season, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a good sized doe, might be a decent, buck. And,
yeah, there's action.
Yeah, and they most of the experienced hunters there, like, you're only taking real shooters. But if it's a guy's first time, if it's brown, it's down, right? He'll let you shoot a spike or yearling. Yeah. It doesn't matter. But that guy is going to be the guy that I always think about if I ever feel entitled to someone's land or entitled to a hunting opportunity.
Compared to that.
Yeah, I mean, I've been invited by this great family to hunt elk in New Mexico, and, had good buddies. Heath, when Joby was here last, we did an episode where we talked about... Yeah,
he's a big-time hunter, isn't he?
Yeah, when we talked about that hunt, and it's just like, what was the main theme of us all three talking about it? Yeah, you got the story and all that, but it's the same thing that you said, Kyle. It's thankfulness of the opportunity. Every time I get an animal on the ground, I pray over that animal with whoever I'm there with. I pray and thank him for the hunt, thank him for nature, thank him for the provision and the food that this will provide to my family and to other people, other families and all that. And so, yeah, it's just a good way to go about it. So like, if you're out there and you get an opportunity to hunt, because a lot of guys have started doing jiu-jitsu because of the show, started working out because of the show, and
hopefully hunting. Yeah,
like, I'm really learning how to hunt in my 30s because I didn't grow up doing it, right? And
yeah, so I've heard that.
I'm making
about
mistakes so that
that's
my 4-year-old and 5 and 3-year-old sons right now, that they kind of grow up being around hunting. But man, we got to get you up to Guyman here before too long. So I'm thrilled that you were able to come through and stop for a while and come out to the studio. But anything else you want to get off your chest?
Shoot, I don't think so. I was gonna bug you. I don't know if you've ever done it on the show or not.
Let's go.
But I've seen. I bet it's been under 2 shows have done this. They either start or they finish with praying. So I just want you to pray for us and for the viewers and everyone to close it out.
Let's do it.
That'd be great.
Let's do it. Heavenly Father, I just thank you so much for this time. Thank you for Kyle. Thank you for his family, and thank you for what you've provided for him. Lord, you've given us so many blessings, and there's the ones that are very obvious to us, the ones that we can see, and then there's the ones that we cannot. And Lord, we just thank you especially for the blessings that we can't see, and we just hope that one day you will reveal that to us. Lord, I pray that you will continue to guide his steps and to guide the steps of all the men that are listening to the show. It's your son's precious, strong, and holy name that we pray. Amen.
Amen.
All right, brother.
Sweet. Thanks.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. Wherever you're listening to this, please subscribe, rate, and leave us a positive 5-star review. If you want me to come speak live at your event or on your podcast, just shoot me an email to info@Undaunted.Life. That's info@Undaunted.Life. Follow us on Instagram and like us on Facebook, and check out our website for everything else, including how to donate to keep more content like this coming your way. Just go to www.Undaunted.Life. And as always, we want to thank the band Holy Name for allowing us to use their music for our content. The music on this podcast is their song Perpetua, which is off their self-titled debut album on Face Down Records. The links are in the description. I'm your host, Kyle Thompson. Remember, keep pushing back darkness, keep forging spiritual, mental, and physical resilience, keep seeking the Lion of Judah.